I'm now joined by Middle East Analyst Wardah Khalid. Wardah, welcome to our show.
Thanks
on Saturday. We saw protests that turned deadly and rockets being fired throughout the week. What do you attribute these heightened tensions to?
Well, they're attributed to the one-year anniversary of the Great March of Return, which took place last year on March 30th. We saw tens of thousands of Gazans come to the border between Israel and Gaza, protesting because they want to end what is now a 12-year blockade of their territories, and also asking for the right of return to areas that they fled from. The vast majority of people living in Gaza are actually refugees, and so there's 2 million people there now, and they call it the largest open-air prison because it is blockaded by air, sea, and land. So this protest today was in commemoration of that and telling people that they're still protesting for their rights because they haven't received them.
And there are no signs of letting up this ongoing tension.
Well, the protest did die down a little bit today, after it finished. But people are still wanting to continue to raise their voices on this issue. And we're seeing some hope now because Egypt has been kind of trying to broker a peace deal between Hamas and Israel, and we're hopeful that something will happen now. Their kind of deal with Hamas was that if you kind of control the crowd so there isn't as much violence, there's not as much tension, and perhaps we will be able to move towards that. So as we saw, there was much less violence at the border than we saw last year, and we're hopeful that this will lead to a peace deal, hopefully.
President Donald Trump of the U.S. Recognized Golan Heights as Israeli territory this week. How do you think that move will complicate the situation?
I think that move is going to complicate things in the fact that it shows that the U.S. is no longer an honest broker for a peace deal under President Trump. The timing is very suspect. It was done 2 weeks before the Israeli parliamentary elections, where Netanyahu is running again for prime minister. And so, those elections are going to take place on April 9th. And it shows something when President Trump is defying over a half century of bipartisan U.S. policy of not recognizing that as Israeli territory. And so we're going to have to look at that and say that, it's going to show that we are not an honest broker in this situation, and it's not going to show that the U.S. is able to help.
The personal friendship between President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu dates way back, right?
I'm not sure exactly how long it dates, but President Trump seems to be friends with anybody who kind of matches his personality type, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But I will say, as far as Israel and Palestine goes, President Trump has been siding a lot with what Netanyahu has been doing there, as far as the harsh treatment of Palestinians there and the crackdown on it. President Trump started by moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He cut Palestinian humanitarian aid through UNRWA, and his administration has been approving of the blockade on Gaza, and now finally, as we've seen, supporting the Israeli declaration of sovereignty over the Golan Heights. So, this friendship, it's not beneficial for Palestinians. It's also not beneficial for Israelis who just want to see people from both sides live in peace and security.
Finally, we have 25 seconds left. Let's talk about the political future of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Do you think the move, the recognition of Golan Heights by Washington will help or hurt Netanyahu's chances?
I think for him, he is going to think that it's going to help him. A lot of hardliners in his government want to see a crackdown on on Palestinians, and so this all ties into that. They also want to see a harshening of relations against Iran, and so they're using that as justification for that. So I think his supporters will see it as a win. His detractors, opponents, will not support it.
Middle East Analyst Wardah Khalid, thank you so much for your insight.